Hello, it's great to see you again. Today we will continue with a case that occurred in Chengdu, Sichuan, China in 2012. In the history of criminal investigation, alongside cases that end with deserved sentences for the perpetrators, there are also many instances that stir human compassion. Today's case is one such instance. A distinguished young woman, labeled as a model student in everyone's eyes, repeatedly faced tragic failures due to societal and workplace injustices. The story begins on the afternoon of March 21st, 2013, at a construction site in Qingbaijiang District, Chengdu, Sichuan Province, China. Two workers were on their way home from work. As they passed through an empty, uninhabited plot of land, they unexpectedly found an intact, seemingly new suitcase next to a woven bag. Out of curiosity, they slowly approached to investigate. When they opened the suitcase, the acrid smell of burning plastic around them couldn't mask the overwhelming stench in the chilling sight inside. A woman's dismembered and decomposing body. Terrified, the two workers immediately reported it to the police. Witnessing such a horrifying scene, the police initially concluded that this was a very serious murder case. They began questioning the residents around the construction site as well as the workers there. Except for the two plumbers, everyone claimed that they had never seen the suitcase and the woven bag. Thus, the police deduced that the murder had occurred recently, perhaps only a few days prior. Based on the victim's characteristics, the police recalled a missing persons report filed at the Wuhu District Police Station a day earlier. Specifically, two people, a middle-aged woman and her daughter, had suddenly lost contact for a day. The report was made by a young man in his 20s named Lu Xiaolong. Typically, losing contact for a day is quite normal and could be due to a phone malfunction or loss. Xiaolong's urgency puzzled the officers. However, Lu Xiaolong explained that his mother was suffering from breast cancer and had been in Chengdu for over a month for treatment. His sister was working in Chengdu. To save on living and medical expenses, the two of them were staying in a small hostel near the hospital. Every day, the mother and daughter regularly communicated by phone each evening to update on the mother's condition. But since the previous day, both their phones had been off, making not only Xiaolong anxious but also the hospital, as his mother was due for her final radiation therapy. According to Lu Xiaolong, his mother, Li Huazhang, was in her 50s. Based on the crime scene and personal details, including height, weight, and age, she matched the victim found in the suitcase. As expected, when the investigative team compared DNA samples from Li's blood at the cancer hospital, it confirmed that she was the victim. The police immediately went to the hostel near the cancer hospital, where Li Huazhang and her daughter had stayed before their disappearance. When they arrived, the room was very small, old, and dark, with an area of only about 5 square meters. The mother and daughter rented the room by the day, paying 15 yuan per night. Despite being unoccupied, the floor was very clean, as if it had just been washed. Strangely, the bedding on the bed was missing. When asked, the reception staff claimed ignorance, only knowing that the guests had not checked out, so the room hadn't been cleaned. This raised suspicion among the police. Questioning the neighboring guest, he mentioned that late the previous night, he was awakened by loud, urgent noises from the next room, as if someone was chopping meat. Disturbed by the noise, he opened his door to check and saw that the other room's door was tightly closed. However, the gap under the door was stuffed with bedding, as if someone was trying to hide something. He knocked on the door twice to remind them to be quieter so as not to disturb others' sleep. Immediately, the noise stopped and the door remained closed. Half asleep, he did not suspect anything and went back to bed. With this clue, the police conducted a thorough search of the room, hoping to find valuable evidence. Indeed, they found tiny bloodstains splattered on the wall and in the corners of the room. Thus, the police believed this could be the initial crime scene. Reviewing the surveillance cameras in the hostel corridor, the police discovered that around 8 p.m. on March 19th, Li Huazhang and her daughter, Lu Xiaomin, entered the room together. At around 2 a.m., Lu Xiaomin was seen repeatedly going in and out of the room, carrying cleaning supplies. However, her mother, Li Huazhang, did not appear on the camera again. Combining this with the neighbor's testimony, the police suspected that Li Huazhang's death might have been caused by her daughter, Lu Xiaomin. They immediately began searching for Lu Xiaomin. According to her brother, Lu Xiaolong, Lu Xiaomin had been renting a house in Chengdu while preparing for her master's exams. However, he did not know her exact address, only the neighborhood where she lived. Based on the clues provided by Lu Xiaolong, the police went door to door in the neighborhood and eventually found her place. However, the scene that greeted them left them stunned. According to Lu Xiaolong, his sister was a well-regarded university graduate with a high-paying job, living comfortably. But the place the police found was cramped, dark, with walls full of holes, moldy surroundings, and shaky windows. It lacked basic living necessities, entirely unfit for a young woman. The landlord mentioned that the rent for the apartment was only 130 yuan a month. He did not think a top student would be living there. He had seen Lu Xiaomin that day and did not notice anything unusual. That night, upon hearing that Lu Xiaomin was about to return, the police decided to stake out the place. About 4 hours later, in the early morning, Lu Xiaomin appeared near the hostel. Her hair was disheveled. She was barefoot, and her clothes were covered in dirt and twigs. Her face looked dazed, as if she had just returned from the wilderness. When plainclothes officers approached and showed their badges, Lu Xiaomin did not try to escape, but calmly followed them to the station. A female officer inspected Lu Xiaomin and found several bloodstains on her trousers, behind her ears, and on her clothes. DNA tests confirmed that the blood belonged to her mother, Li Huazhang. Therefore, it seemed beyond doubt that Lu Xiaomin was the perpetrator. However, what was noteworthy was that during police questioning, Lu Xiaomin not only remained calm, but also joked throughout the interrogation. Initially, she claimed she had never been to the hotel where the incident occurred. She then said her mother died in the hospital and it had nothing to do with her. She always smiled nonchalantly, making the police wonder if there was another hidden truth in this case. They showed her the hotel surveillance footage and asked her what happened that night. But Lu Xiaomin just smiled and said she did nothing. Her demeanor and words were those of someone mentally ill. However, her brother, Lu Xiaolong, stated that she had no history of mental illness. Furthermore, if she were mentally ill, how could she have passed the university entrance exams and held a job with an annual salary of 100,000 yuan? To get a precise answer, the police quickly conducted a mental health evaluation of Lu Xiaomin. The results showed she was completely normal. But as a normal person, what reason could have driven her to cruelly kill her mother and even laugh bizarrely about it? Everything defied common sense. The police had to take her to the crime scene for identification. What shocked everyone even more was that when Lu Xiaomin saw her mother's body, she laughed and sarcastically commented, "Looks so fat," as if Li Huazhang were an enemy in her eyes. It was only when her uncle, who had raised and cared for her, came to the station to persuade her that Lu Xiaomin confessed to her crime. Lu Xiaomin was born in 1983 in Suian, Sichuan. Her mother, Li Huazhang, was a rural elementary school teacher. When Lu Xiaomin was 14, her father had a sudden accident and became bedridden, plunging the family into poverty. As a teacher, her mother believed that education could change their fate. Hence, her children's education became the family's top priority. Despite the financial struggles, she ensured that both Lu Xiaomin and her siblings attended university and left the countryside. No matter how hard it was, she did not let her children do too much housework. As long as they excelled in their studies, she felt hopeful about life. Witnessing the poverty of her family and the strict upbringing of her mother, both Lu Xiaomin and her brother studied hard and achieved excellent results. Lu Xiaomin passed the city's specialized high school entrance exam with outstanding marks, ranking first in the district. However, this was not enough for her mother to show her more love and compassion. Her mother sent her to live with her uncle, while she focused entirely on raising her brother, Lu Xiaolong. This marked the beginning of the emotional distance between mother and daughter. Li Huazhang had no idea that this decision would sow the seeds for a tragedy many years later. After Lu Xiaomin moved to her uncle's house, her mother no longer cared about her. During their infrequent meetings, she only reminded her to study hard and get into a good university. She paid no attention to Xiaomin's daily struggles or emotional well-being. Even Xiaomin's tuition and living expenses were covered by her uncle. This made Xiaomin feel like a burden on others from a very young age. Fortunately, her uncle's family treated her well, treating her like their own child. Gradually, she became close to her uncle. But this also meant growing more distant from her biological parents. When it came time for college entrance exams, she did not disappoint anyone. With her excellent academic performance, Lu Xiaomin was admitted to Southwest Petroleum University to study law. She aspired to become a lawyer in the future because, at that time, lawyers were highly regarded and the profession offered a high salary, at least enough to lift her out of poverty and dependency. Getting into university was a significant milestone for Lu Xiaomin. For the first time, her mother, Li Huazhang, saw her as a source of pride. She beamed with joy when talking about her daughter, believing that as long as Xiaomin was in university, the future would be secure for both her and her husband. However, she didn't realize that in this era, getting into university was only a small step. Once at university, the first challenge Xiaomin faced was integrating into society. For others, this might not have been difficult, but for Xiaomin, a girl who had always focused solely on studying and had little social interaction, it was not easy. Thus, Lu Xiaomin struggled with this challenge. Moreover, besides her studies, she had to work to support herself. She rarely participated in group activities or clubs, either due to lack of time or financial constraints. Gradually, Lu Xiaomin distanced herself from social groups. Throughout her university years, she hardly had any friends. Besides studying, she only knew work. While her friends bought cosmetics and nice clothes, she remained simple and dressed plainly, which made her even more self-conscious. However, there was one thing that comforted her. She had a boyfriend whom she secretly dated throughout her university years. Lu Xiaomin's boyfriend came from a modest family, but treated her well. He was also ambitious, which made Xiaomin love him deeply. They even planned to move to a big city, get married, and have children after graduation. These were the most wonderful memories of Lu Xiaomin's life. However, in 2007, when they graduated, they were forced to live apart due to work. Lu Xiaomin's boyfriend found a job in Chengdu, while she, unable to compete with graduates from top universities, was temporarily unemployed. She realized that to become a lawyer in Chengdu, she needed a higher degree or credentials from more prestigious universities. After much consideration, Lu Xiaomin decided to pursue a master's degree. However, this idea was immediately opposed by her mother, who wanted her to start working to ease the family's financial burden. Besides, her brother would soon enter university, which would further strain their finances. Without her mother's support, Lu Xiaomin had no choice but to abandon her dream of becoming a lawyer in Chengdu. She moved to Tianshui and got a sales job with China National Petroleum Corporation, earning 100,000 yuan a year. This income was seen as the last hope to save her family. Li Huazhang, after years of hardship, finally tasted the sweetness of life as she received her daughter's monthly salary. However, she was unaware of the many challenges Xiaomin faced in her career far away. Due to her introverted nature, Xiaomin struggled with social interactions. At her company, she couldn't integrate with her colleagues and was quickly isolated by them. What is noteworthy is that if it were just simple isolation, it would merely mean having no friends at work while still being able to continue her job. However, Xiaomin's inferiority, fear, and avoidance made her appear weak and fragile, making her a target for bullying. Due to her delicate and beautiful appearance, she encountered unspoken rules in the workplace from those with bad intentions. During a departmental meeting, her colleagues deliberately left the seat next to the head of the department for Lu Xiaomin. Without exception, the old department head took advantage of her under the table. Although Lu Xiaomin was extremely uncomfortable, she had been taught from a young age to be obedient and never to resist. So she accepted the injustice and swallowed her anger, thinking that after the rage, things would return to normal. But reality is never that simple. Her colleagues, noticing the department head's mood, deliberately got Xiaomin drunk. Very quickly, Lu Xiaomin, unable to handle the alcohol, collapsed and passed out. She was taken to a hotel by the department head and violated. When she woke up and saw her body, Xiaomin was terrified and confused. When she wanted to report to the police, the department head used his cunning, both threatening and gently persuading her. He successfully convinced Xiaomin to drop the idea of going to the police. Moreover, he promised that as long as she obeyed him, she would not have to worry about money or company projects. Promotions and salary increases could be easily achieved through shortcuts without competition. For Lu Xiaomin, a newcomer in the workforce, the seasoned department head was like a wolf preying on a lamb. He knew her weaknesses and how to exploit them. He understood Xiaomin better than she understood herself. Thus, Xiaomin vaguely agreed to become his mistress, beginning the life of a third party. However, what Lu Xiaomin did not expect was that what awaited her was not promotion or a salary increase, but complete failure. When the scandal between her and the department head was exposed, his wife stormed into the company to confront her, causing a scene. Although she was a victim of the unspoken rules, Xiaomin became the target of criticism. Instead of receiving sympathy, she was mocked and ridiculed. After more than 3 months of immense suffering and humiliation, Lu Xiaomin resigned voluntarily. In July 2012, Lu Xiaomin returned home with a wounded spirit. When her mother, Li Huazhang, heard that her daughter had quit her job, she felt only deep disappointment and no concern for her daughter's well-being. Xiaomin dared not tell the truth to her family, only saying that she couldn't adapt to the climate in Gansu and wanted to return to Sichuan to find a new job. But her mother did not care about the climate in Gansu. The most important thing to her was that the family's financial pillar had collapsed. Although her brother, Lu Xiaolong, had started working, his earnings were meager as he did not graduate from a prestigious university. In her parents' eyes, Lu Xiaomin's resignation was simply because she couldn't endure hardship, a rash and impulsive act. Thus, when she returned home, she was not met with warmth, but with relentless scolding from her parents. Instead of soothing her wounds, her family only made them worse. She often quarreled with her parents. She thought about seeking out her ex-boyfriend, but learned that he had a new girlfriend, so she gave up on that too. 2 months later, she left her hometown and moved alone to Chengdu, dragging her suitcase. She rented a small room near Southwest Petroleum University, hoping to find a job to support herself. But after 2 months of job hunting, she gave up due to the low salaries offered. At this time, Lu Xiaomin was 29 years old, unemployed and single. She fell into the depths of despair, constantly harboring negative thoughts. Eventually, she decided to take the graduate school entrance exam again, hoping to become a lawyer. Although her rented room was nothing special, for Xiaomin, who was focused on studying, it provided a sense of peace she had never experienced before. However, a phone call from her younger brother at the end of 2012 quickly disrupted her plans, dragging her back into the abyss. Her mother had been diagnosed with breast cancer. This news shocked Xiaomin greatly, forcing her to temporarily set aside her plans for graduate school to care for her mother's illness. She took her mother to the Sichuan Cancer Hospital for treatment. According to the doctor, her mother's cancer was not severe. With treatment and rest, she could fully recover. However, the treatment costs were not insignificant, especially since Xiaomin was unemployed. She had to use all her savings to pay for her mother's medical expenses. Although Lu Xiaomin had been working for 5 years, she had been regularly sending living expenses to her mother and covering her brother's tuition and living costs. Thus, her savings amounted to only a few tens of thousands of yuan, which was insufficient for the medical bills. To cover the hospital fees, Xiaomin and her mother rented a small room near the hospital, costing only 15 yuan per day. She also bought simple kitchen utensils to cook for her mother in the hallway of the lodging. Despite her frugality, Xiaomin's money quickly ran out. Mother and daughter frequently argued over financial issues. Every time they quarreled, Li Huazhang blamed her daughter for quitting a high-paying job, causing the family to fall into hardship. On March 19, 2013, Lu Xiaomin took out the last 100 yuan she had. This meant she could not pay the next medical bill. Another argument broke out between them. Back at the lodging, Li Huazhang began packing their belongings, demanding that Xiaomin return to their hometown and give up on treating the illness. Xiaomin refused, wanting to stay in Chengdu to develop her career. Li Huazhang scolded her daughter, and the confrontation escalated into a physical altercation. In a fit of rage, Xiaomin ended the argument with a fruit knife in the room. After Li Huazhang passed away, Xiaomin began to clean the room. On the third day after killing her mother, Xiaomin took a suitcase and a net bag containing her mother's belongings out the back door of the lodging. Since there were no surveillance cameras at the back door, her actions were not recorded. Lu Xiaomin called a 3-wheeled vehicle to transport the suitcase and net bag to a nearby sidewalk, then took another taxi back to her apartment in Xindu district. However, she later decided to dispose of the suitcase and net bag. She hastily discarded the suitcase in an open area at a construction site, where it was discovered the same day. Experts determined that Lu Xiaomin had acted impulsively during the quarrel with her mother. This could be seen as a crime of passion, not premeditated murder. However, given that Lu Xiaomin had studied law and received a good education from a young age, her deliberate attempts to conceal the crime and evade legal punishment demonstrated the serious nature of her actions. Moreover, her lack of remorse was particularly reprehensible. In 2017, the Wuhu District People's Court sentenced Lu Xiaomin to death in the first instance trial. Although the case has concluded, it leaves us with a heavy heart. Lu Xiaomin's life, aside from her act of matricide, was that of a pitiful, gentle, and filial girl. Perhaps it was precisely her meekness that led to successive hardships, and being pushed to her limits became the tipping point that led her down a path of crime. It reflects the complexities of human nature, the intertwining of good and evil in life. Lu Xiaomin, therefore, is truly pitiful, but she is not beyond reproach. And you? What do you think about this case?